Item is the RID hearing. We will open that up for anybody that'd like to comment on the RID hearing for Fire Tree. Is there anybody here that'd like to speak to that? If not, we are going to recess that hearing until November 15th, correct?
Yeah.
The hearing will be recessed until November 15th at 7 o'clock. Next hearing is the RHID hearing for the Heritage subdivision. Is there anybody here that'd like to speak to that agenda item? All right, if not, we will recess that until November 15th at 7 o'clock. Next item is the approval. We'll close the hearings. Call to order the regular session, of the City Council. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
Been moved and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes. Next item is the consent agenda.
I mean, we approve the consent agenda. Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes. Next, is there anybody here from the public that'd like to speak to something that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move down to new business. First item under new business is the first reading of the RHID ordinance for Fire Tree. Is there anybody here from the public like to speak to that agenda item? Seeing none, council discussion? This is discussion only for this reading. Nope. Okay. Next item is RHI ordinance for Heritage first reading. Is there anybody from the public like to speak to that agenda item? Seeing none, any council discussion? All right. Next agenda item is the phase 2 of Maple Leaf Trail. Glenn, do you want to present to this?
Yeah, it's the agreement with KDOT. If you remember, we're doing this in phases, a couple of different phases. And we've already received grants for phase 1 and phase 2 for what we're calling the Maple Leaf Trail, which will extend all the way to Ottawa. That's our plan. But we're doing this piece by piece through the typical transportation enhancement grants. If you remember, we got one to go across Elm Street. That was our first one. And now we've got 2 more that follow that. So when you do that, you have to sign an agreement with KDOT, because once you get the grant, it becomes a KDOT project. They actually hire the engineer, do all the inspections and whatever that, and so we're just basically at this point contributing money. It's really a KDOT project at this point. So they will bid this out. They're raring to go on that, and they got all the documents, all the easements, everything we need for phase 1 here, and we're ready to go on that. So. And then phase 2 will follow that, and so on and so forth, and then probably a phase 3, and who knows if we get our big grant that we're looking for from the federal government, we can do it all in one shot. But anyway, this is the typical agreement you have to sign with KDOT before they can move forward with the project, and we have our cost share in there that they always want to see that we're aware of that too. So this is a typical KDOT contract is what it is. So,
Anybody have any questions for
any
Glenn?
questions on that about the project, what we're doing and how we're doing it? And I believe that BG Consultant is the engineer on it and also the inspection on it. So they work a lot with KDOT. Of course, work well with us. So they'll keep us updated on it, and you'll see them again in the move here pretty soon on the project. So looking forward to getting it going. So like I said, it's step by step, phase by phase. So we'll get it done.
Can you remind everybody the size of the grants and our share?
I think this one was, it's on the sheet. I don't have it. I forgot to bring it with me, but it's really somewhere in there. Can I scroll through there?
I did not, it was not in the packet.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I think it's around 700,000.
It's a little over $700,000, and then we have a 20% cost share on 20. Yeah. So that's the way those normally work. So there's rarely any free, 100% grants out there. The federal ones that we're looking for are 100%, but KDOT traditionally has tried to stretch their money out a little bit, and they've always given the 80-20 split on that. So it's kind of interesting the way they go about it. But
So for the 2, we put it out for 2 federal ones And I think we heard back on one, as I understand it, we are still.
Yeah,
working on the other.
the raise grant we did hear back from, and that's the one that funded Flint Hills Trail,
Right.
that improvement over there, and there was one out in Salina. That's the only two that I'm aware of in Kansas that got funded. So we know we didn't get that one. The
Right.
other one's called a Spark Grant.
That's the spark grant.
And I forget exactly what that acronym means. You forget all these things after a while. That has not been announced yet.
Okay.
And I don't know when it will. They announce when they're having a committee meeting, and they do those a lot of times live. You see them on the YouTube or whatever like that. But they haven't made, I don't think they've made any decisions on the Spark money yet. And so that, again, is federal money that came to the states for their allocation. But the raise grant was all federal money going through the U.S. Department of Transportation. So you have to apply to them, and they make the judgment. That has not come to the state at all. So that's a little different. So we did apply for both. And so the raise grant we knew was going to be a long shot because that was $20 million, and we're competing with the Flint Hills, and they're an established trail, so that was hard for us to compete against them. But we've learned from them. We've asked them a lot of questions already, and we will apply again here for the next fiscal year on that. So
This
fingers
is-
crossed.
So this is just the trail portion inside the
Correct.
city.
Correct,
Yeah.
and to argue that.
Our two phases are, 1 and 2 are inside, get us to the city limits, and then hopefully the federal will take
Right.
it. Or if we have to continue with TA grants, we could do that. I mean,
Well,
there's
but
no
the
harm
same
in that.
way the Flint Hills Trail got through was that it was already an established trail. And
Yeah.
just doing phase 2 kind of puts us more in that category. So
Right,
it's-
it does. So, yeah, everything that we're doing so far shows we're invested in the trail. It's not just kind of a one-off thing, because then your chances of getting funded are pretty low if they read that into that. I mean, we've obviously committed to trails and sidewalks and making our city walkable, and with the safe routes to school, and we've hit all those, and we've checked all those boxes, so to speak.
Sure.
And so I think that only helps us when we go to apply for even more money, because they want to see that your city or county or whatever is really committed to this, and it's not just, hey, we heard about a grant out there, let's apply for it. Your chances aren't very good when you do that. But we have a plan, and it's in our policy, and our strategic planning, it's in everything. We always point to those documents and say, that's what we're doing, and, we have a multi-county committee that started on this whole project a couple of years ago before the pandemic. So, I don't know what else to do to impress them, to be honest with you, but, so step by step.
We
we'll
asked
get
for
there.
20 million in the spark grant too, right?
Is that what our number was on that
Yeah.
one? Yeah,
20 million on both.
because really that's the
We're
entire
seeing which one
project.
we can get.
Yeah,
If
well,
we got
it's
it.
a game to play.
Yeah.
What committee is that announces that?
I think they could call it the Spark Committee. There was a
There's a
special
Spark
committee,
committee
yeah,
for-
for
Well,
that,
on
yeah.
state level.
On the state level?
It is a state level one, right? The other one, again, comes out of the federal DOT.
Okay, that's
So,
right.
Yeah, it's gotta be cleared by the Secretary of Transportation. So, yeah, we figured we were kind of late to, last minute applying for that, and we didn't know about it until the last minute. But we had a strong application, but, obviously other people were a little bit stronger than us, so.
This sidewalk trail will also go down South Street and catch Mustang Drive and that whole area that doesn't have any sidewalks or anything, very southwest corner of town. Mustang Drive.
Phase 2?
Phase 2 does.
Yeah, phase 2, you get more sidewalks down there,
Phase 2
the way it's
comes
configured.
from the city limits up along the railroad tracks, cuts over on South Street. So it'll catch some of that neighborhood, those kids can walk, and then it goes north up to the depot, and then they can hop on the trail to go to their school crossing.
Did we have an issue with one of the easements up the trail straight through? I know there was that embankment that was a challenge, but I thought we were looking into that.
The
We never heard
engineers, no, the engineers are looking into it. We're
Okay.
waiting for the grant to get
Right.
processed so they can
Okay.
see it.
Right, okay.
But really, I think it needs to go, I mean, we'll look at it further as we go through the process, but
Yeah.
I really would like it to catch that, because those kids that back there have no way to get to school without walking on that.
I understand that. It takes away the essence of what a trail is, though, to me. It's going through neighborhoods. I say put them in the next phase of the sidewalk plan there.
I don't think it takes away the essence of it. I think you're gonna have a problem building it through there. Because with all there's multiple lines that take up most of that space of the railroad.
Well, I remember this conversation. We said that we were gonna have them look into
Yeah,
it.
BG when they looked at it originally, we're
Yeah.
gonna have them look at it again.
Yeah.
Which we can, but I
Right,
think there's
yeah.
only one area, because the original plan was to go through the golf course, remember?
I remember that.
We had them
I remember that.
move
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
on CDC, so.
right.
Okay,
But
we'll
We
decide
can
on that
talk,
final
we can talk
route.
about it more on
Yep.
CDC.
That's what you gotta do when we get there, so. All right.
We'll ask PG to come down.
Yeah, and they can do all that. They're very good at that.
Yeah,
They can-
yeah, for sure. And if they, I mean, obviously, you get, two birds with one stone. You have no other choice, but if you, it's just strange to have a trail go through a neighborhood, I think.
Okay,
All right,
man,
thanks, Glenn.
very good.
Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Any further council discussion? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Are we just approving phase 2 of the trail? What are we,
Approving the agreement with KDOT for phase 2 of the trail.
okay. I move we approve phase 2 of the trail with KDOT.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next item is the police car. Chief?
Good evening, council. Before you is a document that the mayor requested that the police department put together for your discussion. Basically, we were talking about a new vehicle purchase for the police department. Currently, our options are a Tesla, which has been requested that we look into for future use in our department. There is a Dodge Durango and then also a Chevy Tahoe. The issues that we have with the gasoline-powered vehicles is that the Chevy Tahoes are not even taking or giving us a bid for that because they can't order any currently. The issue with the Durango is that they're willing to take a bid or make a bid for us and make an order, but they can't guarantee delivery even within a calendar year. That is where the issue lies. With the Teslas, we're being advised from Tesla that we could have a turnaround of a vehicle in 60 days from the order. So with that and what the mayor requested that we put together for your discussion is some discussion points with actually some numbers attached to it on what the costs are for a purchase of an electric vehicle, be it Tesla, the build out for that to make it a police vehicle as opposed to a conventional gas-powered vehicle, and then the potential cost savings that we would have making sure that, or making some assumptions on projections on what we think could happen in that calendar year. On page 2 of the document, you'll see 3 vehicles, units 53, 55, and 61. For us, those are gasoline-powered Dodge Chargers. And then you can see the maintenance costs that we've had for those, or upkeep costs, since January 1 through October 31st for each of the 3 vehicles. For the average fuel cost, the reason we're putting average in there is because price for fuel has varied drastically throughout the year. So we did an average cost of what fuel per gallon and calculated that on how much fuel usage that we've had. With that assumption, and we assumed that it will not cost the city any money to provide electricity to the vehicle when it charges at a station that we would install at the station, assuming that there's zero cost to that. You have a balance difference of about $36,000 that costs more for the initial purchase of the Tesla and the build out. If you calculate unit 55, which is the middle of the 3 costs on page 2 for the annual cost, roughly an annual cost, it would take about 5.4 years to make up that $36,000 difference, with the assumption that there are no other costs associated with the Tesla in that calendar year. We assume that we would probably have to buy tires at some point, which is roughly about $800. But that would be assuming that there's no other malfunctions with the other equipment, even the police equipment in there, that to make up that $36,000 deficit on the initial purchase be about 5.4 years. We typically keep each of our cars about 7 years before we turn them over. So you would have savings in there with that. Try to answer any questions.
Chief, what's the age of these three vehicles that you shared?
Gosh. I did not ask for that information, I'm sorry.
I mean, are they, obviously on the front end of their
No, they're on
life?
the tail end of their
Right,
life.
so the maintenance is
Yeah.
gonna be high.
They would.
So just your estimate of average over the life of the 7 years is probably, there's a warranty period.
Yeah, we're taking a snapshot of a year.
Yeah, at the end, so
Yes.
it's gonna be somewhat high relative to the average over the 7 years.
It could be. We were experiencing with each one of those Dodge products that had engine problems. For whatever reason, the engine in the Dodge Chargers have been having issues. And it's not uncommon through the other departments as well.
Any other questions for Chief? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? All right, council discussion?
So this is just, the costs on the second page are just for this year, right?
Correct.
So it doesn't include all the maintenance and stuff they've had previously?
No,
Okay.
this is just a year-to-date.
Okay.
But like, looking through this, I mean, yeah, we'll have tires, so I agree with Chief to take unit 55, because that one doesn't even include tires on that, so if we cancel that out with the Tesla. See what I'm saying?
So reverse engineering, so there's a 7-year warranty, 120,000 mile on the Tesla.
Yes. 120,000.
120,000 miles, and I think it's 8 years
8 years.
on the battery. I believe.
What about the other components?
That I can't tell you. I'm
I
not
think they're
familiar
7
enough with the
years.
product.
Right, figure that out.
Google that real quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that doesn't include, that's not including the 12-volt backup battery system. That's just the Tesla battery itself for the vehicle.
This says 8 years or 100,000 miles, whichever comes first.
So how many years could you get and stay under 100,000 miles? Yeah, any idea? I mean, would we go eight years and not get to 100?
Oh, I'm sorry. Model Y is 8 years or 120,000.
Okay.
So 8 years, 120,000 miles.
And what's the question again, Scott? I'm
So I'm
sorry.
just trying to figure out, 8 years or 120,000 miles, which one do you think you would reach first?
Each shift, well, that, if I can back it up, sorry.
Yeah. That's 15,000 miles a year.
Sure. I guess the assumptions that for that calculation we would have to make are, we can only run it one shift at a time. So in theory, it could run a 12-hour shift, sit for the next 12 hours, and run the next day for 12 hours. Roughly 60 to 70 miles a shift, so that times 365.
You intend to run it every day?
That's the question. If we're going to test it out, I would like to use it as much as possible. But there are times,
Under normal conditions, how many, does your officers work 4 on, 3 off, 3 on, 4 off?
they work, well, it's 2 days on, 2 days off, 3 days on, 2 days off, 2 days on, 3 days off. So,
I'm just trying to figure out your monthly miles on a normal use, not.
but see, they're not person specific. In theory, that next shift that comes in still runs that vehicle. There are some vehicles that are assigned to an individual, and then I have pool vehicles.
Okay.
So do we use this as a pool vehicle or do we use it as an individual?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
So you said 60 miles?
roughly 60 to 70 miles, let's say 65 miles per shift.
25,000 a year.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, sounds like you could manage it to that, using it as pool at some point. I mean, I think the analysis really is the warranty versus maintenance costs, right? And then I think we also have to consider, we couldn't get one of the gas ones if we had to. And that's the other compelling event here. You know, 36,000, if you just back it up, 36,000 over 8 years,
That's what I'm figuring out right now.
that's, less than 5,000. That's $4,500 a year. So if the gas vehicles would have averaged that over their life, 8-year life, then it would be break even. Based on maintenance, fuel. So, I mean, what Chief's saying is it potentially is higher than that on the current gas maintenance over an 8-year period.
We intend to keep it longer than the other agency that we went and saw that had the Tesla. They intend to turn theirs over in 4 years.
Right.
They don't intend to see a savings until that second vehicle purchase. They intend to have them below a threshold that they think is good for the market for resale.
Right.
We just don't simply have the luxury for that.
So 60 miles a day, you get to 120,000 miles in 5.5 years, basically. What you get.
But you got 3.5 more years worth, or 3.5 more years worth of maintenance, or warranty.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
just for the warranty, yeah.
Not if you ran.
If you get to
Not if you run the
120
miles
ran
out.
that many
if
miles,
you get to
then
100 120,000 miles, you're stopped.
Correct, but you get 5.5 years running up to that mileage under warranty.
Right.
Where with the gas powered, you only get at that miles,
Right.
you're only at 2 years before you're
Correct.
out of warranty.
That would be correct.
Right. And that's the maintenance comparison, right?
Yeah.
It's non-warranty maintenance.
Correct.
And charging station,
They
The-
use the wall charger at Leewood.
They do. And that's what we have built into this cost. Not the installation of that, because I would assume that we could have our own people, city people install. And I'm speaking for the city.
I would
Another assumption.
I would hope that our power guys get
They've
installed.
been more than gracious about everything we've ever
we'll have to
asked.
bill you.
Right.
All right.
So how much electricity does a Tesla use per year?
That's a great question, and it's not something that's easily found. It's all over kilowatt usage, and it depends on how much you have to charge it. And I'll be real honest, we couldn't figure it out in the short amount of time we had for this meeting, so I hope to have that figure for you.
You have to figure that in too.
But we were assuming that the city would have a way of offsetting that cost to where it was cost neutral for the city. I don't know if it's in reference to the amount of solar energy that's pulled that we could say that the city's providing. And will you take it out of that pool or how, I mean, it's however you want to slice it up. There either will be a cost or there won't be based off what the city decides.
I know when I had to charge mine, and I think I did it in my office after our meeting just to kind of see, if I remember right, it was about $10 if the car was at 0 to fill it all the way up to the 300 miles, I think the long range goes 340, was about $10 to $15, depending on how much, because if you go to a supercharger, it costs 22 cents a kilowatt. Well, the city buys it at 5.5 cents a kilowatt, so that changes the price there, but a resident will be about 12.5 cents a kilowatt, so. I know when I had mine, I didn't notice much, if any, change in my electric bill.
And I'm simply not knowledgeable enough to know that when we tether it throughout the day on different time periods, or we don't tether it all day long, and then when it sits, it's tethered throughout the night, if that draws more energy on that one single charge, or if the separate charges throughout the day equal that same amount. I just simply don't know the answer to that.
Any other questions for Chief?
I guess I should probably know this after seeing all the budget cycles, but the PD doesn't pay an electric bill, right?
No, I believe we do.
You do.
All the firms,
The same,
all the firms, yeah.
okay.
Everything's
At the-
metered, everything's charged.
At the same rate, is it?
Yes, whatever,
Okay,
you know,
Comes out of the budget.
okay,
charge everybody else, yeah.
okay.
The other thing to keep in mind with this before the chief sits down is we did not get a car this year. We
Right.
held off on that. So if we were to say, well, we're gonna go with the Durango and they don't, I mean, so we're already gonna go this year, possibly next year, and next, so if you don't, yeah, like, it could be 3 years in between. At least 2 years in between cars. That's something to also consider with this, because I feel a little better if we had ordered one this year and we had at least one going, but we didn't see this crisis coming. I don't know if anybody did. They've explored every avenue. This state police, of course, has a program where they get to 50,000 that they sell. I think you said there are like 62 agencies in front of us.
We're number
right now.
62 in line for agencies to get a used vehicle from the Kansas Highway Patrol.
Yeah, so that's not gonna happen anytime soon. I'm not sure I mean, they're gonna say it's a supply chain issue. And there are very few, manufacturers now that actually, create police cars. You know, there's not a lot of them out there anymore. So, the only one that will guarantee it within a short period of time is Tesla.
And I think a good question that someone might have public-wise that asks, well, why can't you just buy any kind of car and make it a police car? The suspensions are different for the amount and kind of driving that we have to do, and they have to be police pursuit rated. And there are very few of those out there that manufacture those. So that's the reason.
So budget-wise, as Glenn said, we had 48,000 in this year's budget. Obviously, we're gonna use it, that's moving to next year. What do we have in next year? Or was this the 48,000 will be,
Yeah, depending on the timing of it, when they want their, their money or whatever. But the other thing is, when I'm talking with Ben about this, we'd rather take it out of our sales tax CIP rather than out of the general fund. So the general fund has been historically not really high, and the sales tax CIP has actually done pretty well right now. There's pretty good balance in there. It's not committed, so we'd rather actually take it out of there.
okay.
And so we can do either vehicle is
Right.
what it comes down to.
Does it make sense to lease?
I don't know if they'll do that. I don't know if they'll.
Well, I mean-
yeah.
I don't know, like, on our other,
Oh, a lease purchase for
Like
with the
five.
interest rates being higher than that, it's been actually recommended against it. I did bring that up with him. And he said with the interest rates now creeping up to where they were probably last year, that probably wouldn't, because we've done short-term leases with banks and they've been really good to us, but with the interest rates going up, it's probably not a great option right now.
any other questions for Chief?
I do want to recognize my staff worked very hard on getting this information to you guys on a short turnaround. It was a lot of different pieces of information from a lot of different sources to try to put it all together for you. So I hope it's definitely something that you can look at and be usable for your conversation, but big kudos to my staff for putting it together.
Yep, thank them.
Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
Chief.
Thank you.
Thoughts?
Because to me, feels like about a wash. I mean, I think if we went back and looked at actuals over the term, 7-year term of the, one of these three vehicles, it's probably gonna be an average lower than, what they are in year 7.
Do we ever sell the vehicles that we use?
Yeah, we don't get much for them.
Okay, I don't know.
We do sell.
Purple Wave or
That's, Purple
Yeah.
Wave. That's where Leewood said that they're gonna start seeing their return on theirs because Teslas historically have shown a higher resale value than our normal police car.
Especially if they get rid of them in 4 years or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I think that's where, I think, Scott, you're right. I agree with you that it'd be a wash with one. I think if it's successful and we add more, I think that's when we'll start seeing the cost saving, kind of like Leewood is.
Just because of the resale part portion?
I think the resale portion, I think also the maintenance portion. I don't think you can deny the difference in the two on the maintenance side of things with, I mean, you don't have most of this stuff.
I mean, you
Right.
got $36,000 to pay for it on the others over a 7-year period.
Yeah, but in 10 months, we spent, I mean, worst case scenario, 11 grand just on
That's why
one car.
I think in the first, it's warranty for a couple of years, and probably the next 2 are probably pretty low maintenance. You're not getting, I wouldn't think big maintenance items, I mean, on average, but then as this thing gets into year 5 and 6 and 7, just like we all have cars, we know that's when they start hitting some significant maintenance issues, which just, drives the average up. So, like I said, I think it's probably a wash and resale to be determined. Probably definitely more than what, one of our current ones would be, which are pretty much worthless. But I do think that we probably need to manage that, the mileage piece. You think about that, do we go full, just full usage and get out of warranty in 5.5? What's that do to, what's that do to the model, right? Then you're gonna cover it for 1.5 or 2.5 years on your own. So that may be something we may need to do just to, as we get some experience with it, see whether we want to just
Prolong the warranty.
prolong the warranty. Because I think what I've heard, that's kind of what the benefit here is, that warranty. 4 years in, you still got 8 years left. That's resale value right there, right? I'm buying a car that's got 4 years of warranty left. I'm overpaying.
No, I agree. I do not disagree. So if Chief, sorry, I'm gonna ask you to come up again. So I'm going back to my question that I don't think we originally got to. If a normal police car is driven 60 miles a shift on average, some more, some less, 65, we'll go with the higher number. But you said 3 on, 2 off, blah, 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 but how many days in a month is that?
In a month?
How many shifts in a month does, with the average car? If one officer drove this car, how many shifts would they be driving?
Well, it's 4 days on 1 week. And I'd have to see the schedule. I don't have a schedule with me. It's hard to do it in your head because it fluctuates every other week. So just talking out loud, work Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then off Monday, Tuesday, work Wednesday, Thursday, off Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So
7 days. There you go.
Do all the vehicles pretty much average the same mileage a year?
I can't answer that because some of them, like I said, are pool and some of them are individual use.
Okay.
So it varies. I mean, we could, in theory, extrapolate out just average overall, but I've never done that, but it can be done.
So it's not 65 times 365.
No.
well, he was talking about using it for every shift. though.
Yeah.
Using it for every shift, but if you ran just a
If
normal
you ran a normal
shift,
shift, 7 days out of 2 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's 12,250 a year.
Which is,
Right.
and I have direct control over
Yeah.
how long we decide to use a car.
Sure.
So if I make the policy where it is only used during a particular shift, doesn't matter who drives it,
Right.
but it only does 7 days in 2 weeks, we can manage that over time.
Sure.
And then it depends on whether or not we have vehicles go down.
Sure.
And then it's not uncommon for us to have 3 vehicles out of service at once. And then the individual use vehicles become pool use vehicles. And what we call hot seating them, which means that you pull up, another person gets in and takes it for the next shift. But that can't happen in an electric vehicle.
No.
So we have to manage it that way.
So by the very nature of the electric vehicle, it may end up forcing that kind of schedule.
Correct.
Yeah.
It will never be used as much as a gasoline powered vehicle.
Right,
Backfill.
In theory.
Yeah.
right.
So I just did the quick math.
Okay.
It's 14 days would equal 168 hours on 12-hour shifts over a 30-day period. So 14 times 65 is 910 times 12 is about 11,000
I
miles.
use 70 hours by the way too. So I just went worst case.
Oh,
I think that's
so
probably the difference. Yeah.
11 to 12,000 miles.
I think you call it 15,
It's
just
under-
because
well,
there could be
15
people who go out of
was a-
service,
15
was a-
use it
Right.
more.
15 was a break even.
So 15 times 7, if you just did it that way, is 105,000 miles.
But if it's an 8 year, it's 15 times 8, which gets you.
But if you keep it just 7 with 1 year
Yeah.
warranty left to sell it,
Yeah, if that's what you wanted to do.
that's, I think, that's what Leewood does. I think they run that up to 100,000 miles, 5 years.
No, it was less than that, wasn't it?
It's 4, I thought we said.
Yeah, they're getting rid of theirs at 4 years,
Okay.
but I thought they had about half of their warranty left,
Okay.
so about 60,000.
So on a normal shift though, I guess my point is if we just ran it normal shifts, we'd have that warranty throughout the entire life of the car. That we would have.
Yeah.
And you could go 8 years to run out the warranty if you needed to.
And there's probably room for fill in on other vehicles missing, from time to time as well. If it's only 11,000.
Okay. That's what I was curious about. I wasn't smart enough to do the math in my head.
I'll tell you what, you can run yourself in a circle thinking about the numbers, for sure.
I know.
Yeah,
There's so many give and takes.
right,
And a lot of assumptions have to be made because we don't know.
yeah.
So what kind of breakdown, maintenance things is the Tesla gonna have? I mean, other than the battery,
Really, that's about it.
is it?
That, and I guess, everything in there is run off of electricity. So let's say that the screen for some reason goes down, that's covered under that warranty for the vehicle. The biggest cost replacement you will have is the battery itself. It's multiple thousands of dollars,
But
For the
that would be
battery.
covered under warranty.
and that is supposed to be covered under the
So
warranty.
really,
I don't know
Most
anything
normal
about
maintenance would be
Teslas.
tires.
your
So
tires and your
is
brakes,
gonna
yeah.
be it.
No, there's no brake. It's regenerative braking.
Oh,
So
really?
really, you
Yeah.
don't even
Wow.
replace the brake pads on the Tesla. Because it's regenerative. You
It's
don't
just
even use
slowing
the
the motor
brake.
down.
Well, there is a
Right.
brake pedal.
There's a
You-
brake pedal.
You have to be able to
Yeah.
stop rather than just rolling to a stop.
Right,
Which is
yeah.
what regenerative braking is.
Okay.
So you do touch the brake, but not near as often.
Yeah, it's basically a 1 foot. It's like your golf cart.
So tires,
Yeah.
it's tires.
Tires
Tires is-
and.
And I'll be real-
windshield wiper fluid.
To be up front and honest too, when we first get that vehicle, everyone's gonna have to be trained in emergency vehicle operations with that vehicle. And we will run a set of tires doing that. So we'll have that cost right off the bat, but it's minimal.
I don't know anything about Teslas, so that's why I
I'm
was
still, and
asking.
nor do I, learning on a very fast curve right now. Yeah.
So basically, there's a 50,000 mile 4 year just on the basic paint and, non-powertrain, powertrain of the battery and the electric motor and being the guts of the car with the powertrain, which is 8 year, 120,000, which are the big dollar items. So there may be some, some maintenance issues outside of that.
Is there power steering? I mean, is there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, there's stuff that can go wrong.
Yeah.
Just not like the big stuff.
All right. Maybe the last time.
I'll come over as much as you need.
I'll reserve the rest of my time.
Understood.
Questions.
Thank you, guys.
I mean, I'll be upfront. I think it's going to be the future. I think this not escalates. What's the terminology? Accelerates. There you go. Accelerates the decision for us with not being able to get another police car.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to. I personally believe after owning an electric vehicle, I was a skeptic at the beginning before I even bought one. Probably not as much as Chief, but, but I was a skeptic. Needless to say, and that was part of the reason I purchased one, is I wanted to see what it all was about. And I was pleasantly surprised for myself, as I've said all along, personal experience. They're not long highway miles, high speed type of vehicles, but low speed in town, perfect. They make a lot of sense there. So that was my experience with my Tesla. The main reason I don't have it anymore, but am looking at going back to one, was because at that point I was driving a lot of miles back and forth to another metro area. So that's the only reason I got rid of mine. So, but in Baldwin, if I was working in town or very close to town, it made so much sense. That's my opinion. I think we'll see the benefit in the future with it.
I think we're down a car, lead time's kind of forcing our hand,
Yep.
and we'll learn on this one, and that will determine whether we continue on.
Right.
Yeah, I think that lead
Kinda
time's
where
a big one, like you said. I mean, financially probably is about a wash, it's pretty close
should
at
be.
least, but, I think Casey's right, this is where we're moving towards, as a whole. And so, might as well embrace it now and, and then, of course, with the lead time on our other option.
And the nice thing is, I mean, Chief will be able to, when we talked to Leewood, he got to drive it. He did get a speeding ticket from Olathe PD while he was driving it. But,
Not for
you know, this will give us an opportunity to see if it does work well for our community. And then by that point, hopefully the supply chain loosens up and then we can take a look and see what the experience has been. And see how we want to move forward as a community. I think we'll see the benefit. I truly do. In 65 miles, that's not even a third of what their capabilities are, this one, anyway. On average.
If I'm not mistaken, there's no dealer bidding. I mean, it's pretty much,
Elon says.
sole
source.
source, get on the web, configure your options, and hit buy button.
Yeah.
So there's like no bidding process or any of that, right?
Correct.
I think a SpaceX drone delivers it to you as well.
I thought it drove itself here.
That would make the most sense.
Here comes the lifetime Twitter account.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, that's an add-on that costs extra.
Yeah.
So what do we need to do?
Yeah, what do we need to do here?
Make a motion. Vote. What we want to do.
I move we approve to purchase the Tesla.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Waiting for
There was no more. That was it.
That's it.
Julie, you aye.
Short and sweet, I like it.
Motion passes 4-0. Next item on the agenda is the tree board appointment. So Roger came to us. Roger, you're the head of the tree board, correct? Came to us, one of his members stepped down, so they needed to replace him, and he wanted to nominate and the council to appoint Wendy Southard. Roger, if you want to just step forward and tell the council just a little bit about Wendy and why your board would like to appoint her.
Well, Ann Walker moved out of town, and she recommended Wendy. I've met her. She seems to be compatible with the board. She has an interest in trees, so that's about all it takes.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah.
So that was the tree board's nomination, so it's just, I believe under ordinance, it's required to be approved by the council whenever the tree board
That's correct.
puts forward any nomination for that board. I'll entertain a motion. There's no council discussion.
I move we,
That's where
I move we appoint Wendy Southard.
second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
And you
Motion
guys were-
passes.
I almost said,
That's bad.
I almost said
That's bad.
Sutherland, but I was like, it's not right. It's not right.
That's where we're stuck.
Okay, budget and finance, Scott.
Yes, we did meet, we discussed the, budget impact of the, police car. Talked about the differences, we, obviously came to vote tonight, so we don't need to rehash that. And then the other thing we talked about was the solar field phase 2. I think we're still waiting for
Location.
location alternatives to
I
really.
have an update on all that.
You do?
Yeah, during our,
Okay, so really looking forward to that, or looking for that location alternatives to really figure out what, what makes sense. But from a budget, it really is gonna be city-owned versus land acquisition will be really the only differentiator on sites, right? For the cost of the project.
just, I'll give it now since you're on that
Yeah.
topic, Scott. We got approached by a project out in western Kansas that is a solar farm project that we need to go ahead and discuss in utility committee and probably finance committee as well. So
As an alternative to what we're looking at.
just include it in the mix before we make a decision on that solar project, because it changes quite a bit on what we're presented with. So if you guys could both put those on your agenda. I don't know if you have meetings before the next meeting, so we
Yeah, we
can
do.
go ahead and put it on the agenda for next meeting if we,
I believe it's next Thursday they do have a meeting.
okay.
Are we meeting Friday, Scott?
So if you both can,
Okay.
that's my only, I just wanted to
Okay.
add that caveat in there. It was last minute, last.
And that's all we talked about.
Community development, Corey.
Yeah, we met on the 24th. A few agenda items, nothing too in-depth though. Just went over the key performance indicators. I need to kind of sharpen that up and send the final draft over to Amra so that the committee can have that. For the strategic planning. Review the tourism logo again. We talked about that last council meeting and decided we're gonna kick it back to CDC and kind of toss it around a little bit more about when to use it. Come back to council. We're still kind of tossing it around. Gonna have maybe a few revisions, bring back here and see what everyone thinks. Talked about, a tourism page, using it on the tourism page, using it for merchandising. So we're still kind of playing around with it. The sales tax vote coming up on the 8th, just a community outreach update, just making sure people know about the vote. We discussed postcards going out this past week. Those, I believe, already went out, correct? Postcards went out. A brochure went out in the last utility cycle. Public outreach was still going. We had a meeting on the 24th, a public outreach meeting here in this room. And there's another one on November 3rd.
Yes.
We moved it
Oh,
because November 3rd is that legislative dinner.
okay.
So we had to
So
move
we're-
it, so we moved it to the Monday before, so November 7th. So the day before the election. So if any last minute people have any questions, they.
That's at 5.
It
5 to
wasn't-
7.
Oh, there was 6 to 8.
Lynn, what'd you set that up for? 5 to 7 on November 7th or 6 to 8?
I moved it to the 7th on Facebook, but I just realized it's not on the website calendar at all. Look at that.
What's the times?
I'm sorry, it's on 6 to 8.
6 to 8, okay, you're right.
And I will check with Wendy because we had this room reserved for the 3rd.
Yeah.
So I'll check with her, make sure that's gonna be okay.
I already called about that.
Oh, okay, awesome. Then I won't do it.
Okay. The last thing we had there, we talked about some social media ads taken out to increase awareness for the vote. Have we done anything on that? The social media stuff? We talked about maybe a couple Facebook ads to kind of increase awareness about the vote.
Yes, I'm working.
Okay, great. So then there was that. Community center update. Bids went out for RFP I believe, last week of October, and then I think the deadline is the first week in November, correct here? Glenn, coming up this week?
That is correct, yeah.
So, find out what those bids are gonna be. Sounds like, we
I
will
thought
be.
I thought it got pushed back because he's waiting on an engineer.
Oh, yeah, right, his civil engineer is a little behind, probably about 2 weeks behind the schedule.
Okay.
So,
Are
We're
we
still in that month, so it's no crisis yet. but
Probably looking
we're
at
a little
December.
behind.
Okay, well, I thought December was when council was maybe gonna be reviewing those bids.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Hopefully the bids went out and they have the month
Yeah,
of
I don't
November.
know if he's got them out yet. I don't think they're out on the street yet.
Okay.
He's close to doing that.
So
Okay.
we're still waiting on Jay.
Okay, so we, as a body, will be voting sometime December, possibly January, on those bids, so. The last issue we had a citizen reach out about the net that was installed, on Sixth Fairway of the golf course. Wear and tear, it got all tattered, I think, from, a bunch of stuff. So I think, are just waiting from the VGA on kind of when they're gonna need the boom lift and get that put back up, as I understand. Correct. Yeah. That's it. Next meeting is on, Susan, the 28th. No, yes, 28th. 4 o'clock, second floor of City Hall.
Public safety, Susan.
We have not met since our last meeting. We meet next on the 8th at 4 o'clock.
Public works, Julie.
We haven't met either, and the next meeting is on the 10th at 9 in the morning.
Strategic planning, Scott.
We met, and you guys have in your packet kind of the output of what we just went through, the focus areas, and just kind of brainstorm some potential KPIs for all 3 of the focus areas. And the intent is then to take the committee's KPIs, and at the next work session, I think we work through everything and try to get down to, a set of KPIs that we would then, move forward with on the strategic plan. Some of them are gonna be open-ended, like the surveys. We're just gonna have to say we're gonna use survey to do this, and then I think maybe the committee can go out and try to figure out what that might look like. But I think we should be at a point we can lock down some KPIs. Now, what that's gonna really entail, and whether we do it at the work session or after, is the department heads really need to be involved in that. It's easy for us to say, we want you to measure X, Y, Z, and it might be a huge burden on them to do that. So they need to have say and buy-in into whatever it is we want to measure, whether it's uptime for the electrical grid or whatever that is. We need to get their feedback on what do they already measure. It's an easy thing that we can capture. If they have to go do something new, we might want to think about whether we include that or not. So I don't know if we include them in the work session or.
That's what I was just gonna ask, if you were thinking of doing that, because I think it'd be a good idea.
So are you guys wanting to target a work session for December with staff?
Yeah, if we want to try to get this thing done this year, we're gonna need to.
Because we have that meeting scheduled with the school board in January.
Right. Yeah, so we'd like to have this done. Right.
So, are we gonna do the December 13th work session that's down
Yeah.
for that?
Yeah, we'll be December 13th at 7 o'clock. The work session on strategic plan with department heads.
Okay.
What we can do before, ahead of that,
American Legion.
what we do ahead of that is, as committees get input, we'll combine it all into a single document that we can have out to everybody ahead of time, so we can come in with, thoughts and ideas, including the department heads. They need to be included in all of that as well. Okay. Next meeting for the Budget and Finance Friday at, I don't know if I said that, Friday, 7:45 a.m., second floor City Hall, and we'll do TBD on the strategic plan committee, because I think the next step will be kind of after the work session.
Yeah. I think, well, you guys want to meet, because we still need the committees to all send their stuff to AMRA so that you guys can
Well, I think it's just a compilation. I don't know that we're gonna make any decisions on.
I didn't know if you wanted to take all that from Ameren as a committee.
That's true. I mean, we could probably, yeah, I mean, if there's
Before this.
duplicates, and maybe there's a theme, yeah, we could do that.
So if committees, you know, if you
Yeah,
guys
get
could
those
just get those over.
Not that I'm dying to have another meeting, but that might speed up, that might make a work session a little bit quicker if we've done a little bit of the scrubbing.
That's what I'm thinking. Sure. Kind of have
So I'll reach out to Julie and Austin, see when they're available, and then we'll put some on the calendar to be determined for that meeting.
City administrator, staff comments, anything further?
Just one thing, even though it's 75 degrees outside today, you may notice that our Christmas decorations
Yeah. Notice that.
doesn't seem right, but there they are, so we're getting ready. They're doing them. The ground guys who are putting that up, they were doing a fantastic job once again. So, when it does get colder, whatever, we're gonna be ready for Christmas. Ahead of the curve.
Or if it doesn't, they have Christmas in
We're still gonna
Florida.
be ready.
Yeah.
They have Christmas everywhere else. Why does it have to be?
I don't know, but we're way ahead of the curve here.
I'm good with a
Way ahead.
nice 75-degree Christmas.
Yeah, it will be great.
All right, any council comments further? The only thing I have, is I did talk to KDOT, I did fill out an application. They did approve a new study for the Heritage Crosswalk, the Heritage Speed Limit, 8th Street Crosswalk. And I asked them for a stoplight, don't know where that's gonna go, but, they already approved my application. I submitted on a Friday, they approved it on a Monday, and BG Consultants has been assigned to it. So they said in 6 months we should get that. Had to go to the Lieutenant Governor's office, get it done. It's done, so.
And just to follow up on that, I did hear, yesterday or maybe it was last Friday, they've got all that in motion right now, and we're actually going to, bid out the project while it's under review. May have to do a change order at the end of that, but it's actually gonna be bid sooner than later on the Santa Fe.
Santa Fe Crosswalk.
Yeah.
Because we asked for, or in my application, I only had a small box to write in, so I asked for an upgraded, a better crossing system for Santa Fe Drive, for that new sidewalk, or
Right.
crosswalk. An upgraded, crossing or stoplight for the 8th Street crossing, and then a reduction in speed limit based on the population growth out in that area. So
That'd be great.
we'll see where it goes. All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
And then we're adjourned.
Second, been moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay, motion passes, we're adjourned.